You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Hello and welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn on Business Talk Radio and live on social media. I am your host and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I am a certified coach and I'm also a TV show host. Joining me today is my partner and an incredible human being. He is the managing partner of BCAT and his name is Mr. Al Cini. Welcome, Al.
It's such a pleasure being here, as always, with you, Dr. Jacalyn. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you for coming back. We had quite a day yesterday. I'm glad that you were part of our 6-hour marathon.
It was a 6-hour telethon. Hop on the phones, call in. We're taking pledges. That was. I was only on for 15 minutes, but you were right there on the board working the program for 6 hours.
Literally sitting in this chair for 6 hours.
Yeah, that was quite an accomplishment. Nice work.
So we're back today on the Business Talk Show, and we've got two really incredible guests. And I just wanted to thank you because I wouldn't have met Jeff if it weren't for you, because you told me about Lunch Club.
Yeah, Lunch Club is at lunchclub.com for people out there who might be interested. It's a free service, and they have an AI system that connects you with partners, friends, that you can meet via Zoom, spend a half an hour on a Zoom call with them and get to know them. And they match you up based on common interests. And you met Jeff. That's how you met Jeff Nischwitz. Isn't that right?
Yes, it is. That's how I met Jeff. And Jeff introduced me to Craig Matthews. So They are the CEO and Chief Shift Officer of Cardivera. So we're going to hear about their journey. And they also have a podcast. They're doing a ton of things in the leadership space. So I think that it's going to be a very powerful and beneficial interview that people are going to walk away with some real sense of what they need to do in their own lives as a personal leader and then also as a leader in their business lives.
And it couldn't come at a better time because here we are right on the cliff overlooking 2021. And,
it's push it off. Goodbye.
It's time to make that shift. And in fact, Jeff is the Chief Shift Officer, as you mentioned. And, that new perspective on what we ought to be doing with the rest of our lives, I think it's always the right time for that, but maybe especially around the new year. So it should be a great conversation.
I think so. And the fact that they're partners, I think is going to be unique and interesting. We haven't really done that so far. I don't think we've had two partners come on, have we?
We haven't. If a fight breaks out in the middle of all this, I guess we'll just have to referee.
They move their boxes further away.
No, I think it'll be interesting to see their two perspectives on this. I know they're calling in, they're Zooming, StreamYarding in from two different places.
Yes.
So they work together virtually, but they also have their own individual lives too. And it'll be fun to hear how they pull all that together.
It is. What do you say we bring them out?
Yeah, let's do that.
Live from Tampa. It's Jeff Nischwitz. Welcome, Jeff, Snow Globe Shaker.
Hi, Dr. Jacalyn. Hey,
Al. Somewhere in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, it's Craig Matthews. Hi, Craig.
Hey,
hello,
Craig.
Dr. Jacalyn. Hello, Al. How are you?
Good.
Good. Yeah.
So why don't we start with Jeff explaining what a snow globe shaker is?
Well, actually, this came to me a couple of years ago, standing on a stage. I'm a speaker. And one thing I've learned to do is trust what comes to me. Mm-hmm. I didn't own a snow globe at the time. I'd never thought about snow globes. And I kind of got this channeling in my head about this metaphor of snow globes for life and leadership. And what it's really about is, I don't have one in front of me right now, but you think about a snow globe, it exists for one purpose, and that is to be shaken. That's why it exists. Otherwise, it would be another kind of art. Yet what I've learned is that most snow globes never get shaken because they're good enough as they are.
Yeah.
They're pretty enough. And so the whole thing of the snow globe and being a snow globe shaker is the idea that we need to constantly shake things up in order to get different outcomes. but we also have to shift what we're doing and how we're showing up in the shaking, because otherwise, and this is what I love about the metaphor, when you stop shaking a snow globe, so you've done the magic part, as soon as you stop shaking it, everything starts to settle. And that's what we do. We do that in our lives, our relationships, our businesses, our culture. We settle for good enough, and we might shake things up, but we don't really change things. So it's about shaking things up. And I'll add one more piece here, because I got this question ever since March. Yeah, I don't need any more shaking. 2020 and COVID pandemic has shaken me enough. And I said, no, you're wrong. Because here's the thing about shakeups. When you're being shaken externally by situations, circumstances, or a pandemic, it's even more vital that you shake things up internally, or else otherwise you're being thrown around by external circumstances. So I say shake on and shake more often.
I like that.
That is great.
That's great.
Craig, I know you and Jeff collaborate in Cardavera. Yes. So snow globe shaking is kind of like the objective, but how is it?
That's right.
How is it at Cardavera that you actually accomplish this for people?
Yeah. So with Cardivera, what Jeff and I do is we challenge people to look. I'm sorry.
Bad audio thing. We've got
Really.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me switch to a different audio stream.
Yeah, try that. Can you hear that? Can you hear that humming?
This is how it is in the real world, right? Things come up. It doesn't always work, and it's okay.
How is that? Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Great.
Perfect.
No problem. Well, that's why we have 3 or 4 different mics, right? Well, just like you were saying, Al, one of the things that I've found with Jeff is he really is that snow globe shaker. He is that kind of person that when you have a conversation with you, he's going to dig deep, and he is the master questioner. And so one of the things that we do within Cardavera is Jeff and I both have kind of different perspectives, but yet a similar life view, in the sense of we got to take care of our people. We have to take care of the things that are going on around us, but constantly grow. And so as you look at the snow globe shaking that Jeff does and how he digs in with the questions and helps people to see that there's more to life than what they're seeing right now, that's really what we're doing inside of Cardivera as well.
That and you do that for customers. So who typically calls Cardivera and says, we need help?
Yeah, so what we're looking at there is it can be business leaders who want their whole teams to be going through the leadership development training that we have. Because what we look at is when Jeff and I got together and we started saying, okay, let's change the way that we do things with leadership development. What we realized was typically what you're going to have is leadership development is let's go to a class, and then when we leave there, we're going to be this magically fantastic leader. Well, we all know that doesn't work, that you have to have that constant influx and that constant growth. And that's what we provide with Cardivera. It's an ongoing membership where we have constant new perspectives, new things that we're bringing out for training, challenges. It's looking at books. It's watching TED Talks together. It's having mastermind discussions. So all of those things are wrapped into the monthly membership.
Okay. You know, when you mentioned leadership training, a million eyes roll.
That's right.
Everybody's been through it.
More training.
Yeah. Dr. Jacalyn, you know about this too. I mean, you've been in the corporate world, so you know that there's a succession of these kinds of programs that people are often put through. But the Cardivera's approach is unique and it's different. I really want to focus on that. Maybe Jeff, you want to start?
Yeah, well, my eyes roll too, Al, for maybe a different reason when I hear leadership, because I've asked thousands of people over the last 5 years or so the question of basically how many great leaders do they know? And it's a pretty short list. Most people can't even come up with one. They can talk about a strong manager or someone's good at operating something. So I think we've lost track of leadership. And one of the things I discovered by a speaking engagement is years ago, someone asked me to kick off their leadership development program to do sort of an opening talk, but I didn't ask about their program. And when I was done speaking, I gave this, what I felt like a pretty inspired speech about what it means to lead from the inside out. And then I heard about their program. And to me, there was not an ounce of leadership in their entire program.
Wow.
They weren't teaching leadership. They were teaching management. And so I think we are totally confused about leadership. And one of the differences is, as Craig said, one of our core audience is that leader who says, I want to develop my team. I don't have huge amounts of resources, so I can do it really cost effectively and on a consistent basis and make my team better. But also people who are out in the world, in the business world, whether they own a business or run a business or even have that seat of leadership that says, I want to make more of an impact. And we're going to give them the tools to actually show them how to do that. But it's going to do a lot of inside out work, because what we've learned about leadership is about people. Leadership is about building trust.
Yep.
And if you stop right there, that's differentiated enough, because that's not what most leadership training is about. They don't teach you how to build trust. They don't teach you what it means to be vulnerable and how to be vulnerable in leadership. And they don't teach you what it means to lead every day in every moment, like we say, whether without permission and without position.
Yeah, well put, Jeff.
Yeah, well said. What I found in my career is that leadership is situational. So in other words, in a specific situation at a certain time, someone might step up as a leader, but then we might not see those qualities or characteristics again. What are your thoughts about that, Craig?
Yeah, well, when we look at leadership, we're looking at leadership not just in the business world, but also at home, in your civic areas. I mean, we are leaders in every aspect. We think that everybody is a leader. And it's just a matter of understanding that we have the different places where we can lead. If I'm leading at home and I'm helping my children to grow and I'm being a good husband to my wife, that's leadership. But as we look at the business world, that's typically where we talk about leadership. And we see people rise up in different places because at different times people, either they get their ire up and they're saying, wow, I got to stand up for this because this is something that's not being addressed, or sometimes they're wanting to jump up because they're excited about the opportunity to lead in that particular area.
Wow. That's, I think that's important. And, Craig, you pointed out something that occurs to me frequently. I've been in the business world myself for a while. Flawed people can be good leaders. There's no reason why you have to be perfect before you can be good as a leader. Right. In fact, some of the best leaders in the corporate world have been people with deep personal issues that have risen above them or put them aside while they were leading people. And
sure.
So your program is about working with ordinary people to help them develop leadership skills. It's not about, you don't have to be perfect before I call Cardavera. I call them where they are. You take me from where I are to where I am to where I need to be.
The more flawed, the better, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, this is a really interesting thing. I don't even know if Craig knows this. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I always mispronounce his name. He's the founder of Mind Valley, which is an amazing personal development organization. And his first name is Vishen. And he was talking about, I think it was Google, that basically Google looks to hire people who have gone through significant trauma in their life. Because the people who have gone through that typically have a lot of the traits they need to be more effective in their role and in their leadership.
Yeah.
And I think, you hit something so vital, Al, that leaders don't have to be perfect, but a lot of positional leaders still believe they do have to be perfect. So they try and show up perfect. And there's some research out there from very strong organizations that say that one of the biggest fears of leaders is not having the answers, appearing to not be confident, or to somehow fail. Yet those are the traits that leaders would say I learned the most from failure,
right? But
I can't tell anybody about it because I'll appear flawed. So there's a lot of conflicts that go on with people, no matter what their leadership role or leadership opportunity.
Wow. We really got to get our ego out of the way.
Yeah, I guess that's important. Now, which of you two guys is the boss?
We lead it together. We started collaborating last year in the end of 2019 and started pulling it all together. Just by title, I'm the CEO, but really Jeff and I work on everything together at this point.
And where did that come from in your case, Craig? And then we'll talk to Jeff about that.
So basically, we were talking. we were on a walk like we often do because we met each other for some time. And Jeff happened to be in Raleigh. We were walking through the Arboretum, looking at the flowers and the trees and stuff like that. And it's like, Jeff, I think it's time to make a change. How about we join forces and create a leadership development company that like nobody's done before? He was like, let me think about that. And that was the genesis for Cardivera. And so as we started building that, we started looking at how can we make this different? How can we do it so that we have a really good outcome for the people who are going through the program? Not just lots of income for us. It's really more about how can we serve the people that we're joining forces with and help them to achieve what they want out of life, to become better leaders, but really in the process to become better quality people. Because that's what it comes back to. It's like Jeff said, it starts from the inside out. And leadership that is just external, it's just this facade, that's the kind of thing that gets people in trouble, because then people really can see your real intentions. And so if you start looking at somebody that's, looking good on the outside and trying to appear good on the outside, but really is pretty messed up otherwise, not really caring about the people understand that. And so what we're really trying to do is get down to how do we make people what we call people first leaders. How do you take care of your people first?
Yeah. So Jeff, is that how you remember that walk?
I do actually remember most of that way. We do tend to walk a lot. That's one of the things we do. And the other thing we talked about is the idea of doing something together, because we both have missed out. We were missing the opportunity to work with others. We have small teams, but we really didn't have an organization. And I love your question because, Al, it opens the door to a whole nother topic about leadership when you said, who's the boss? And I would say that's a largely irrelevant question.
Yeah.
Except the only time you need to know who the boss is when you can't find a way together. That's the only time. The rest of the time is a walk together. And if you had recording, which we record our calls, we butt heads different times. We do see things differently. We challenge each other, all designed to make sure that what Cardavera has to offer is truly unique, really valuable, and impactful. And it's getting at the core of the issue. So, I know that my reputation throughout my career, which apparently is well earned, is that I'm a pain in the butt. I was told that when I was a young professional in my first career, and I didn't understand it. And now I embrace it, because what they said is, Jeff, you ask a lot of questions.
Yes.
And I always question how we're doing things, why we're doing things, how do we get better? And like one of my favorite questions in our conversations is not so much what do we need to do next, but if we're off track, why are we off track?
Right.
Why are we not where we want to be? Because I believe that one of the keys to success and the keys to acceleration and growth is to get the obstacles out of the way. And that's one thing that makes Cardivera different. We're not just about goal setting and here's how you get better and here's your checklist. Right. But let's figure out about what part of you is in the way of your leadership that we can get out of the way so now you can accelerate.
Wow.
It sounds like it starts with introspection.
Oh, absolutely. Look at yourself, get out.
Yeah.
We need to take a break, gentlemen, and hear from our sponsors.
Before we take a break, I just want to say one thing.
Yes.
I know a lot of pains in the butt, and Jeff is the first one I've ever met who's figured out a way to monetize that.
Do you have a podcast on that, Jeff?
Great.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back here on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. Stay with us.
Hey everybody, my name is Ralph Graves Jr. I'm the host of the Ralph Graves Jr. Show, and I want to invite you to pick up my book, Unstoppable. I wrote a book called Unstoppable. It's 7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue and achieve success. The one thing that my 20 years of law enforcement has taught me is that no matter who you are, we are all governed by universal laws, like gravity. But in this book, we're going to talk about laws like the law of forgiveness, laws like the law of control, the law of intelligent practice, the law of expectancy. I was able to see how those, no matter what their background was, those who identified and treated these laws with respect, they were able to go on and lead successful lives. So pick up this book, and you can go ahead and pick it up at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, RalphGravesJr.com, where anywhere where fine books are sold. Thank you.
There are 7.7 billion people on Earth today. 40% of these people are under the age of 25. Young adults are the most fertile mission field in the world today. In Scripture, we see Jesus pouring his life into 12 young adults who he equipped to change the world and all of history. Like Jesus, we believe that the best approach to reach the world with the gospel is to invest in young, emerging leaders and equip them to build disciple-making movements. Concentric is the notion of surrounding and sharing a common center. Our center is the model and strategy of Jesus for both leadership development and ministry formation. As a global alliance, we provide equipping in biblical leadership based on Jesus' example in the New Testament. Jesus modeled for us how to make disciples that reproduce. Focusing on leadership development is key to creating movements that spread the gospel and Jesus' disciple-making strategy to young leaders around the globe. Our ministry alliance partners are actively equipping leaders and building movements of multiplication that reproduce the life of Christ. Join us today to equip young leaders with Jesus' strategy that will change cities and nations.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
Academy Sedan and Limo is a full-service transportation company serving the Philadelphia metropolitan area with full knowledge of the New York City, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. areas. We pride ourselves on being the most dependable, conscientious company in the industry. Our always on-time service and dependable pricing make us the company to call for any event or occasion. Our vehicles can accommodate any size party for any occasion. Our vehicles range from four-door sedans to SUVs to minivans to limo buses to full-size tour buses and can accommodate groups of 2 to 100. We offer airport shuttle service or over-the-road service without limitation regarding mileage or time, and no drive is too long or too far. So if you find yourself in need of transportation of any type with any vehicle, give us a call at 610-842-4564 and let us show you what a real transportation company can do for you.
Use code ACADEMY2020 to receive 20% off your first 3 rides, including parking and tolls.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn here on Business Talk Radio and social media. I am accompanied by my co-host, Mr. Al Cini, and our 2 guests today, Mr. Craig Matthews and Mr. Jeff Nischwitz. Nice to see you guys. Thank you for staying around during the break. I also wanted to mention that we'd love to hear from you on social media. Please feel free to make some comments and we will read them out loud. I'm sure Jeff and Craig would love to hear from you. We normally would be able to take calls, but unfortunately Business Talk Radio is not able to patch us through today. So we will just look forward to hearing from you in the comments section. So
fellas, who at a company would typically call Cardavera?
we have a few different types of people. So one, we will talk with the CEO, COO, the person who is responsible for leadership development within the company. So that could be a strategic HR person as well. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side, it's individuals who are wanting to up their game. Maybe they are new in the workforce world, and they're wanting to move into the leadership side, and they're wanting to understand what they need to do to become the better leader. And sometimes it's more experienced leaders who are really wanting to change their game as well and just refine what they do. Maybe they've heard about the way that we approach building trust, understanding vulnerability, and how that really builds the character and the culture within an organization.
Right.
What does the process of working with you look like?
That's pretty simple. That's one of the, we joke about that because one of the things we wanted to create here, pre Cardavera, and still, Craig has a company called Big Think. I have a company called the Nischwitz Group. I do a lot of leadership development myself, do a lot of one-on-one coaching and speaking and training. It was all high dollar, big ticket, short-term intensive programs that people had to make a big financial decision to be a part of, typically limited who we could reach. And my mission, as is Craig's, is to reach out to a broader audience. So, basically, you go to our website, Cardivera, Cardivera.com, it'll immediately tap you into an overview of what we have to offer. Literally click a button and join and become part of the tribe, because we've priced it at a level that everybody can almost afford, not just afford it, but do it without thinking about it. Mm-hmm. The real question is, are they motivated to change? And I think to your question, Al, who reaches out? The people who are sensing that there's more to it, and that there's more inside of them. And they go, I just want to show up bigger in my life, whatever that means. Mm-hmm. And it's probably not even just it's beyond financial. So someone who's feeling like almost this call says there's got to be more than this. And I'm probably not going to get it. I may not get it at work, but I'm going to invest in myself. And that's a big piece. So few people today are willing to invest in themselves. We're looking for people who want to invest in themselves, a relatively small investment, to come in and become part of this tribe so they can all grow together and grow their impact together.
I will say the investing in yourself is the best investment you can ever do.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts, gentlemen, and I'll open this up to Al also, about people who have demonstrated leadership tendencies, traits, skills at home, but not in the professional world, or the opposite?
Well, I'm going to start with that, and then everybody can jump on. I would say if we look deeper at what leadership is, that actually we're not going to find that very often. Because what we find is the disconnect is when we're looking at some of the labels of leadership. But if we look at what it takes in my book, in Craig's book, and in the Cardavera model, because I don't think we've talked about it, Cardavera is a name that Craig and I created, which stands for true heart of leadership, a very people-focused. So to me, the traits that we need, if you're doing them one place or not the other, my first question is, why are they not showing up there? And my guess is there's some outside impediment to that, because you are either living those traits or you're not. Not that you have them, because we can develop all leadership traits. That's my belief, separate topic. But the question, are you living them or not? And if you're not living them somewhere else, there's probably a significant reason. And maybe you're not really leading as well as you think at work, if you think you're leading at home, but maybe you're not there either.
That's interesting. It's interesting because, the way you're describing it, I'm a parent, and my best days as a parent were days that I wasn't a parent. I was just a friend. And the best experiences I ever had with my kids were days when we were together, and they were young people and I was an older person, but there was no real authority expressed anywhere. And they kept looking to me for my approval. And whenever they got anything like that, they did whatever it was they did right 10 or 11 more times over. And, the days when I put the hammer down and acted like a parent, the way I remember my parents acting, were generally very ineffective days. They didn't work very well for me. So that true heart idea, I think is a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. Throughout my career, which was, 20 some years, I'm not going to say exactly what number, but typically I was reporting into a man, whatever the levels were. There was usually men. And so what I found over and over again is that they would have a certain behavior at work and another behavior outside of work, and they weren't in alignment. And I saw it again over and over and over again. So I'm not sure what that means, but
that's called being out of integrity. And really, when you look at leadership and the way that we're looking at it, it really comes down to intentionality. And we want to be intentional in the business world, but we also want to be intentional at home and in our civic activities and with our families. And that really comes back to, what are we going to decide that we're going to be? And making that decision and then sticking with that and bringing support around you to make sure that you do hold with that. That if you're lacking in a particular area, that you have support, other people that are there to help you. And really what that comes down to is, we can't see everything ourselves. We have blind spots. And Jeff, I'm sure you want to talk about what blind spots really are.
Well, the blind spots are, they're the thing in our way. I mean, the main thing, I think what Craig's getting at, I think it needs to go further. And you touched on this earlier, Jacalyn, that so often we think about, you talked about situational leadership. Yeah. I'm going to change the word on you. I'm going to talk about contextual leadership. And we got to look at the context of what is the leadership we're seeing exhibited or not. I borrow this phrase from Malcolm Gladwell. He talked about thin slicing in one of his first books. And I think it's so important to thin slice our behavior. So, Jacalyn, when you say someone's leading a certain way at home and not at work, I would say exactly what's the leadership, and let's see if it really is different. So, for example, I think one of the greatest traits a leader needs to have is the ability to be fully present with other human beings. Yes. I've never met a leader who's present at work and not at home, or vice versa. They're either present or they're not, and they're present in both places. If you've got a leader who speaks up at work but doesn't at home when they see something that needs to change, then it probably means they're speaking up at work because it's their job to, and they feel empowered by the position, and maybe they don't feel it at home. Well, that means they're failing in their leadership at home, because you don't need permission to lead. You just need to care enough to step into what I call the fire of leadership, that moment of leadership. So I think when we break it into the actual little parts, we start to see that either they're very similar, or if they are very different, then we get into that out of integrity piece, out of alignment piece that Craig's talking about.
Right. Wow. Yeah. A lot of people see training as a kind of a process where people come in different, and somehow the training is supposed to hammer down the bumps and sand off the rough edges. And somehow at the end of all the training, everybody comes out the same and better. But that's not Cardivera. I mean, you go in different and you come out different and better.
Yeah, that would suggest that there's this core lump that stays the same in a sense. And what we're looking at is, how do you change that? How do you make it different? Because when we come in with a different perspective, if I come in and say I have to be perfect, right? I'm going to do everything I can to make it look like I'm perfect, even though I may be crushed on the inside. But if I come in with a sense of vulnerability, that changes the game. It develops trust. It allows me to start off with self-accountability and say, you know what, I blew it here, guys. Let me make sure that you're holding me accountable, or that you bring it to the point, or expose it essentially if I am not meeting what I say I'm going to do. And that changes the game pretty significantly, because then as you start doing the things that you say you're going to do, it builds trust. And when we have trust, it allows us to move the organization forward much faster. In our families, oh my gosh, if you don't have trust, what does that do? That's where broken families come from. And when we do have that trust, you're able to move forward. And when you have that trust with your children, you're able to say something to them and they'll be like, you know what, I don't know how this works, but I'm going to believe you, Dad.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, and I want to add to that really quick, because I don't believe we can overestimate or overstate the importance of intentionality around trust building. Because if you think about what leadership is about people. You don't need leadership to run a machine.
Right.
The leadership part is how do you navigate the people side of things. You know, it all comes back to the people, and people follow people they trust. They don't follow people they don't trust. But if you ask anybody in position of leadership, tell me what your trust building strategy is, they're going to look at me like I have four heads. So what are you talking about? Everybody trusts me. I'll tell you right now, no, they don't. There's always some sort of gap. Are you working to close that gap? That gets back to the intentionality and realizing this is about trust and it is about relationships. And I think another point about this that's tied to that is, and I think you touched on it, Jacalyn, we have this belief that if we are so-called leaders that we lead all the time. But I tell leaders all the time, you're not leading most of the day.
Right.
Most of the day you're doing stuff. You're doing your job that's not leadership. Yes, some of it's leadership by example, but what are those moments of leadership? What was the moment of being present? What was the moment of asking that important question? What was the moment of listening differently? What was that moment of encouragement? What was the moment of helping someone to see that there's more in them than they ever imagined? What was that moment of speaking up when something got off course and you corrected it quickly and clearly? Those moments of leadership is what this is about. That's what we're showing people in Cardivera. It's not about what job you have, but are you going to seize the moment? Are you going to, what I've said in 2020, are you going to meet this moment?
Yeah.
So this moment in time requires more of leaders than ever before.
Well,
Great point, Jeff.
It's really obvious, and your program is more about learning than teaching. So the I guess the question is, and I'm following up on a question Dr. Jacalyn asked a little while ago. I sign up. Who teaches me? Who's my instructor? How do I?
It's both of us and the rest of the tribe. So it's not just one of us. You know, Jeff and I are in this together. We're on most of the calls together. Every once in a while, there's a conflict, and one of us may not be there. But usually, it's both of us in there for the training, for our growth accelerator, which is our first 3 months that somebody's a member with us. We take them through a place to help them to understand, kind of level set what their expectation is around leadership. But then a lot of the other programs, Jeff and I are on there together. So they're getting both of us. But really, there's a lot that goes on with the tribe as well. So when I was in my executive MBA program, what I found was I was learning almost as much from the other students because they were bringing their perspective as executives in other companies to what the discussion was in the class. And that was allowing us to learn from each other very easily. What I was kind of getting to earlier when I was talking about the blind spots, I don't think Jeff quite picked up on that, but Jeff often says, you know, a blind spot is a blind spot because you can't see it. And a lot of people say, oh yeah, I know what my blind spots are. Well, by definition, you don't. And that's where having a coach, having other people to see what's going on in your life and help to expose that to you, you know, in a nice way, in a way that helps you to move forward. And saying, you know, Craig, you really blew it on that one. If you had talked about it this way, maybe that would have helped you in that situation. You know, and those are the types of things that we really need help with.
I really like some of the points that you both have made. I think to myself, some of the best opportunities I've had to learn were where the leader encouraged communication among everyone else and working together, as opposed to someone standing up there and lecturing and being the talking head, so to speak.
Right.
So
well, and I think one way to frame this, that I don't even know if Craig has heard me say this, because one of the things I've been thinking about a lot lately, we're all familiar with peer-to-peer mentoring concepts, and I'm developing one, and we expect to have that as part of Cardavera down the road. Is so often our learning, and use that word, Al, is focused on acquiring knowledge. I'm going to read books. I'm going to listen to podcasts. I'm going to go take a course. I'm going to go through a program. If I want to invest more, I'm going to get a coach and all those things. But we acquire new knowledge. But if we don't do anything with that information, it's pretty worthless.
Right.
We can say someone says they're a lifetime learner. I now say I don't care. and that's exactly how I would say it. I don't really care how much you know. I want to know how much you're doing differently with what you know. So that gets us to the second part is we do need to change our behaviors. We need to change our thinking. We certainly need to change our actions. And as Craig said, be more accountable, which is really vital. But the phrase, when you start putting this together, that is so critical is we're talking about the concept of growth.
Yep.
And growth is more than learning. It's more than training. It's more than information. It's even more than new action. It's that inside work. What's my self-awareness? What is my awareness I'm picking up from others because I'm willing to be really open to their feedback so they can help me see my blind spots, especially the little ones, because those are the ones that I don't even pay attention to because they don't even seem obvious. So I just keep coming back to, in Cardivera is about helping people grow inside. And when they do that, they will grow as leaders, they will grow as impactors, they will grow in their relationships, they will grow in their impact in the world.
Yep.
And that to me is magic. And that's what we are committed to creating with Cardavera, is that magic.
It's what I'm hearing that's different about what you're describing, Jeff and Craig, is when I was in the corporate world and it was General Electric, every now and then there'd be a manager, and the manager would be, let's say, a little off center. And there would be scuttlebutt about the manager being a little off center. And then all of a sudden one day the manager wasn't there. And nobody knew exactly what happened, but we found out later that he was sent to charm school, which is how we used to refer to it. He'd go away to charm school for a while and then come back and would be a little less like a bowling ball in a washing machine on the spin cycle. You know what I mean? So this is not charm school. And that's what I think is so interesting about what you're offering. This is a self-awareness, self-development program that everybody pursues according to their own internal compass. And it's about growing and learning and not just about being hammered flat because you're not a good fit for something.
Right.
And, I just think that's so refreshing. How much time do I need to take off of work to do this?
Well, it can be as little as 30 minutes, an hour a week. It's something that it's about what you want to invest in that. So during our training times, that's going to be twice a month. We're going to go through a 1.5 hour training section. So there's training and then there's Q&A. How do we apply this? And really, application is a big part of what we do here. We also have our Mastermind Mondays, which are about an hour, every twice a month. And then we have a TED Talk Tuesday, which is another hour. So there's different things to choose from within there, but it's about what you need to work on, what it is that you're choosing to grow in. And sometimes it's, hey, let's take a look at this thing that Craig and Jeff are bringing because I don't know anything about that area.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind, Al, is we certainly encourage people to participate live, being more interactive, supporting each other. That's the best way to experience this.
Yep.
And there's a reality of schedules.
Sure.
So for those times when someone says, I can't really take that time today, and we schedule things different times of the day to hopefully hit people that fit better in their schedules, everything's recorded so they can go back. And then, so let's say one thing we haven't talked about, which I think is important. Once a month, we have Thought Leader Thursday. Right. This is an outside expert who comes on and does an hour interactive session on whatever their expertise is. For example, next week, our thought leader is someone who wrote a book called Force of Habit. Well, we're coming to the new year, resolutions and goals. She's going to talk about the power of our habits and how we create habits or don't create habits. But those sessions, so let's say you hear a training session this week. Well, next Monday, you can come on Mastermind Monday and ask questions about it. Yep. Or come on the session in 2 weeks when we have group coaching and say, can we dig a little deeper into what I listened to 2 weeks ago? So people have every different way opportunity to experience it at their pace and wherever they're ready to invest their time.
Yeah.
That's excellent. We need to take a quick break. So I hate to do this, but we're just going to be going for a couple of minutes and we'll be right back. Stay with us on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn here on Business Talk Radio and social media.
Networking sucks and people suck at it, but nothing gives me more life than walking around and talking to people in an audience and really being able to identify, okay, I see where you're having trouble, let's work on fixing it. How do you help them? How do you provide value? My goal is to give them those tools to be able to go out and tackle that fear. Anywhere there's coffee is where I'll be. So I bring candy a lot to my speaking engagements. Of course that makes sense. I'm a little unconventional.
Ashley was very knowledgeable.
Very entertaining.
I learned a few new things, and to me that's the key.
What do you want them to say? How do you want to be perceived? You're going to get the most direct, tactical tips and practical takeaways when it comes to networking. These two here are super important. You'll remember once the conversation starts.
I love the tips that she gave out. I hate networking with a passion, so I feel like I can go to a meeting or event and not feel so uncomfortable.
When you're going to a presentation, you want to be educated. You also want to be entertained.
She was really fun and really personable, and everything she was saying was just very relatable.
She's got a lot of great ideas.
That will make you stand out so fast.
She comes across as someone that likes what they do and just doesn't try to sell you something.
Activity breeds results. If you're not doing anything, you're not going anywhere.
Just made me want to start networking, which I never thought I'd say before.
A networking strategy that works for you.
Have you ever tried to build people into a team? Maybe you've tried bowling, or ziplining, or paintball, or pizza making. These events can be fun, and they can make everybody happy for a while. But in the long run, do they really turn people into a team? Now, imagine the members of your team scattered all over the world, working from trains and airplanes, from remote offices, client locations, or working from home. How do you build a winning team when your playing field might be the entire world? With BCAT, we've created the answer. Working completely online, no matter where your people are, we turn them into an engaged and motivated team in 3 simple steps. First, we use the BCAT survey, which they can take online, anywhere, anytime, to reveal the North Star that represents their shared pride in the work they do. Next, we work with your team's leaders and stakeholders to convert that North Star into a role target, an ideal virtual person who represents your team's best self, living its best day at work. With our internet tools, we hang your North Star high in the sky, where everyone on your team can see it, no matter where in the world they might be. Then we guide and help everyone on your team in creating personal plans to align themselves with your team's North Star. We help each of them develop the positive habits that, day by day, every day, steer them closer to your North Star, aligning themselves with your team's signature dreams and ideals. And over the long haul, we offer programs and coaching techniques that help them stick to their plans. Remote team building isn't hard. It doesn't take long. And it's just as much fun as pizzas and paintball. You build winning teams around a purpose, not a place. BCAT is the answer.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Today's show is sponsored by Dr. Jacalyn. Take charge of your life personally, financially, and professionally. Visit drjacalyn.com to book an appointment today.
Welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, the business show here on Business Talk Radio and social media. I am joined by my co-host, Cini, and our 2 very dynamic and interesting guests, Mr. Craig Matthews and Mr. Jeff Nischwitz. Sorry.
Don't overthink it.
Nobody messes that up.
With this
Just
snow
let it
globe
flow.
shaker.
Let it flow.
Great, guys. First of all, I find it interesting that you call your clients members. I guess you see yourself as a kind of an association or almost like a community of people who are learning from each other.
Yeah, we call it the Cardivera tribe.
And that it's an interesting and what we're really doing is talking to people who are potential members of that tribe, and talking to them about why they might want to pick up the phone or get online and send an email to Cardavera to learn more about how to join the experience. What do they say about it after they've started, after they've finished? What kind of response do you get from your members?
Well, it's going to be different for each person. Each person has a different experience through that. So, for example, we had somebody in a Mastermind Monday, for example, and she was saying, I have this situation at work where I have the opportunity to step up to be the leader of this, and they're looking at different things. What do I need to be thinking about? How do I need to go into this interview? And she got feedback from lots of different people on that call, which were able to help her prepare herself for both a great interview and for what she would do to actually set up what her plan would be to go forward in that role.
Yeah, and another great example is this is also a Mastermind Monday. Someone came in who's in an HR role in a bank and said, hey, we're doing this event, but we're doing this event differently because of COVID. It is going to be, it's going to be virtual. And what are some ideas? Well, I think the best way to say it is she was overwhelmed in a beautiful way with ideas. She got ideas on how to run the technology, how to book the space, how to do some interactive elements, how to structure food. I mean, she basically got a roadmap to the entire thing she needed. And I remember her leaving saying, oh my God, I can't believe all this. And, Craig and I contributed small bits to it, but everybody has so much different experience.
Yes.
There's also, people don't want to think about this or they think it's overdone, but the idea of networking and connecting through this. We've had people on calls who mentioned a need, and before the call was over, they had been introduced to someone they wanted to meet by someone else on the call.
Right.
Within like 10 minutes, because it is the mindset is Craig and I are here to serve, and we instill that in the people, and we're finding that people join the Cardivera tribe or also have that servant mindset, the servant and growth mindset.
That's great.
That Mastermind Monday sounds really exciting, especially to me. I was just thinking, wow, I love all of those elements of coming together and helping each other. So does that require becoming a member of Cardivera?
Yes.
Well,
what's that?
Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah. So for the membership, I mean, that's where we get into a deeper connection with the people around us. And so really, if you're not a member, are we going to share everything with it? No. Members get access to not only the different activities that we have going on, but they also get access to our Cardivault, and which is interesting because Jeff and I also have a podcast called the Impact Leadership Podcast, and we interview really amazing people. It's been really a lot of fun. That's one of the big things that we've done this year. And what we do is we'll record one segment, which is our public podcast, and then we record another segment that's just for our members. So they get the kind of the inside scoop, the behind the scenes perspective on some of the guests that we have on there as well. So yeah, the Mastermind Monday is really interesting because it's a no commitment, just come with a question, with a situation that you're facing, and let's let the group help you.
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind to answer that is, as we've been launching Cardavera, we've had some of our events, some of our programs are for members only. We've opened some of them up for the last couple of months to others so they can experience it, such as Mastermind Monday. So, for example, we have a couple Mastermind Mondays coming up in January that I believe are going to also still be open to non-members so they can get a taste of it. So because that's what we want to do, people have a taste of it. And frankly, the other thing is, if you want to get a taste of it, we have a, because we're in launch phase, because typically our regular, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Craig, our regular price for this, all that we're delivering here, is $97 a month.
Right.
Which is a very minimal investment. We know it's real money, but it's minimal when you're talking about investing in yourself and leadership.
Right.
But during launch, we're launching it at $47 a month. Wow. For the first, for anybody who joins now can join at $47 a month if they keep that forever. It's not like for a period of time.
Yeah.
No. And we also have a special that we are offering for people to come in for the first month for $7 a month. And the people on this show can do that.
Wow.
Jeff and Craig, just to be clear, what does someone get if they sign up for the $47 a month?
Well, do you want to go down the list, Craig?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm looking at the calendar right now. We have the 2 times a month, which we're doing the teaching, and we'll bring different topics to bear. And then we also have the Q&A. So it's group coaching and teaching all combined. We have the Thought Leader Thursday once a month. We have Mastermind Mondays twice a month. We have TED Talk Tuesday, where we pick out a TED Talk and we watch that together and then discuss that. And then we also have our Book of the Month Club, or the Book of the Month discussion in there as well. And then in the midst of that, the first 3 months, people go through a growth accelerator, which is really our way of getting involved with them, getting to know people, and then also helping them to understand kind of the foundation of leadership, some of the key principles that we've learned over the years and that we're teaching, the things such as the trust and self-accountability. It's the mindset of leadership, of taking care of your people first. So those are the types of things that we have in that membership. And they also get access to the Cardivault, which is our online library.
It's great. But it sounds like a great program. And I do want to point out for CEOs who might be listening or watching the program, this is a terrific perk to offer a member or all the members of your leadership team. So I think it's an opportunity at a very low cost for an organization, a small company, a medium-sized company, to invest in their people. Mm-hmm. And people always report that learning experiences like this are highly motivational. It's not a punishment because they think you're bad. It's a reward because they think you have potential and they want to help you develop it.
That is such a good point, Al. Oh my gosh. So many people say, oh no, you need to go to training because you're deficient in areas. Why do we only do that?
Well, and that's one of the shifts we talk about, to look at in companies, to encourage leaders to look at that shift. We all know what a PIP is, right? Personal Improvement Plan. Well, who gets a PIP? Someone who's failing. Yeah. Well, that's absurd because it's supposed to be an improvement plan. My premise is, why doesn't everybody on the team have a PIP?
Yep.
Good
point. They don't like the word. So now when I go into companies, I'll say, okay, not everybody's going to have a PIP because it's got baggage. Everybody's going to have a growth plan. Yep. Everybody, because everybody should be growing and getting better. Why are we only focusing extra attention on the people who are failing? There's another blind spot.
Right.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, if you think about it, it's much better to stop the fire before it starts than to run around trying to put the fire out after it started. And, developing people into something effective before they're needed to be effective, I think just makes a whole lot of sense.
One of the other things, Al, that you kind of brought up is if you're talking about a CEO bringing in their people, one of the other benefits of this is they're getting perspective outside of their business as well, which means that they have people that may be in different industries that bring perspectives, bring different ways of doing things that help to create innovation in their own companies.
Good.
One of the big pluses I see about your program, and it actually just reminded me, Jeff, of a comment you put in the chat when we were watching Ashley Owen's Networking Sucks commercial, is that networking is difficult, but you have this environment where people are there wanting to get better, wanting to learn more, wanting to grow. You have a built-in network right there for people.
Yeah.
It is such a natural, because you have a natural affinity. When you bring people together who are committed to growing, committed to making more of a difference wherever they are, those people want to connect.
Right.
And they're going to have these natural connections that none of it has to be structured. We have the structure of delivery, but that delivery puts people in touch with each other and gives them the opportunity to interact so they get to know each other. Yeah, we're doing it, in a virtual world today, which is what makes this deliverable the way it is and allows people to connect from all over the world.
Good. Yep. I know we're coming up on the bottom of the hour, but I just wanted to address one point because I know especially people in high positions inside of companies are reluctant to join groups where confidentiality isn't respected for one reason or another. So maybe you can address that. I think people need to feel like it's a safe space there at Cardivera.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that we look at in the Mastermind Mondays, for example, as that place where we have the real, the deeper dive and the deeper discussions on what's somebody is facing. So if they have an issue or whatever, we do preface that with, these are confidential situations. This is not something that we're talking about anywhere else. And like Jeff was talking about before, we record all the sessions and share those with members, except for the Mastermind Mondays. So those are the things we have there. We also have the deeper dives, which we're developing for later on deployment for real masterminds, as in, in-person retreat style masterminds, as well as the in-person classes.
Great.
Well, I just want to share some contact information for folks who are watching and also for the folks on Business Talk Radio who'll be listening. The best way to get in touch with you, gentlemen, is through Cardivera.com.
Correct.
Excellent. I can only run one banner at a time. So, so there's Jeff's and here's Craig's.
Okay.
And you can reach Craig at Cardivera.com, CRAIG at Cardivera.com. By the way, I love that name. That name just sounds so...
Cardavera?
Cardivera.
It sounds so continental.
Yeah, well, Cardi means heart and VER means truth.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the program. Any last words that you want to share today as we come to the end of this year?
Well, just thank you for having us here. This has been a great discussion.
And my parting words to everyone is there's no reason to wait.
Yeah.
There's no reason to wait. Everybody has it inside them already. They have everything they need already to make a difference as a leader wherever they are and have an impact. We're just here to help them feel more confident in that and give them some of the tools and mindsets to help them do that more consistently and more often. But go ahead, lead.
Yes.
Great point.
Very well said. Well, gentlemen, we'll meet you backstage in just a minute. If you wait for us, that'd be great.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Al.
Great.
Well, Mr. Cini, this is a...
Did you get that last point?
Did
There's
I get
power in there somewhere. Pour some water on it.
That's right.
Don't wait.
Don't wait. Now is the time to take action.
I thought that was a great comment. This is not your father's leadership training. This is all 21st century new ideas based on solid learning science, by the way. And it just makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad that Jeff and Craig could be here with us today. And please check them out at Cardivera.com. There's a lot of really great information. That whole membership model and everything that you get for that price, $47 a month, that's a steal.
It is. It's a great deal.
Yes. So as we leave for today, we're going to be back at 5 p.m. We have another interview about esports, which I had no information about before, but another person I connected with on Lunch Club. And the gentleman is
Australia. There's 16
from Australia, and he owns a team called Gravitas. So stick with us. We'll be back at 5 o'clock. Until then, have a great couple of hours, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for being here on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. Thank you, Mr. Cini. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Craig.
Thanks, everybody.
And while we're waiting for the closing credits, I'll see you again soon. Bye.
You bet.